Hello again, friends. My name is Pam, and welcome to the reading of the Times Reporter newspaper for Friday, January the 15th. We will begin our reading with the area deaths. John A. Colombo Sr., 81, of New Philadelphia, passed away unexpectedly Tuesday, January 12th, in his home. In keeping with John's wishes, he is to be cremated through the care of the Lynn Hurt Guy Funeral Home and Crematory at New Philadelphia, and a family graveside service will be held. William M. Chris, known as Bill, age 60, of New Philadelphia, passed away unexpectedly Thursday, January 7th, in his home. Bill will be cremated and his ashes placed in the columbarium at the Ohio Western Reserve National Cemetery in Rittman. Robert Lee Hammonds, known as Bobby, 71, of Newcomerstown, left this earth for heaven on January 9th, following a brief illness. In keeping with Robert's wishes, public services will not be scheduled. A celebration of life memorial will be planned for a later date. Josephine Elizabeth Harmon, age 95, a resident of the inn at Northwood Village at Dover, passed away on January 11th. Memorial service will be held at a later date. Stella Patricia Nolan, known as Pat, of Newcomerstown, passed away January 10th. A graveside service at Westlawn Cemetery of Newcomerstown will be held at a later date. John J. Ronta, 89, of New Philadelphia, passed away on January 7th at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital in Dover. In honoring John's wishes, cremation has been entrusted with the Toland Herzig Funeral Home and Crematory in Dover. Kenneth L. Van Sickle, known as Kenny, 85, of New Philadelphia, passed away Sunday, January 10th, at the Truman House Community Hospice following complications from COVID-19 pneumonia. Funeral services celebrating Kenny's life will be on Saturday, January 16th, beginning at 11 in the Toland Herzig Funeral Home and Crematory at Dover. Friends will be received Friday, January 15th from 1 to 3 p.m. in the funeral home. Irma M. Walton, 91, of New Philadelphia, passed away Wednesday, January 13th, in Park Village Healthcare at Dover, following a period of declining health. In keeping with Irma's wishes, private graveside services will be held in Sharon Moravian Church Cemetery at Tuscarawas. Rosanna Yoder, 58, of Winesburg, passed away on Tuesday, January 12th, after a brief battle with cancer. Funeral services will be held at the Messiah Amish Mennonite Church in Millersburg on Friday, January 15th at 10 a.m. Friends may call at the Messiah Church on Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. and on Thursday from 2 to 4 and 6 to 8 p.m. That concludes the area readings of the deaths from today's online edition. We'll now begin with our first article. Rural Action, Legal Aid get money to help kids be more resilient. 2 agencies with offices in Tuscarawas County are among 19 that received a share of $350,000 worth of grants meant to help children become more resilient in Appalachian, Ohio. The money came from the I'm a Child of Appalachia Fund at the Foundation for Appalachian, Ohio, and the Osteopathic Heritage Foundation of Nelsonville. Grants address the social, economic, educational, and health challenges faced by young people in the region. Rural Action got $25,000 to facilitate paid internships for high school students in Athens, Belmont, Hocking, Meigs, Morgan, and Tuscarawas counties in partnership with Building Bridges to Careers. Internship host sites include local businesses, government agencies, and community organizations. Rural Action has an office in Mineral City. Southeastern Ohio Legal Services received $20,000 to provide trauma-informed education advocacy, legal services, and representation for vulnerable, low-income students and youth in Appalachian, Ohio. SEOLS has an office in New Philadelphia. We are grateful for the important work of the organizations supported through this partnership. These projects will increase protective factors supporting youth in building academic success, self-esteem, coping skills, and healthy relationships, while expanding access to basic needs and services, says Susan Beaudry, Vice President of OHFN. We are excited to fund 19 of the many visionary organizations serving our region's youth, said FAO's President and CEO, Kara Dingus Brooke. Appalachian, Ohio's young people are current and future leaders and innovators. As our I'm a Child of Appalachian Fund grows through investment and additional gifts, we hope that we will be able to make an even greater impact for the youngest members of our communities and the organizations serving them. Grantees were selected from 125 applicants that ask for more than $2.5 million. Claymont looks at reductions, new levy to address growing deficit, by John Baker. Officials at Claymont City Schools are looking at reductions in staff, a building closure, or a new levy to deal with the district's growing spending deficit. We're looking at all different avenues to reduce expenditures, said Superintendent Brian Wrench, who added that there are no definite plans yet on how Claymont will deal with the situation. The district's current 5-year financial forecast shows that Claymont has been spending more money than it takes in since fiscal year 2018, when expenditures were $639,000 more than revenues. In fiscal year 2019, the deficit was $401,000, and in fiscal year 2020, it was $637,000. The forecast calls for a deficit of $1.8 million in fiscal year 2022. That will grow to $2.3 million in fiscal year 2023, $2.9 million in fiscal year 2024, and $3.7 million in fiscal year 2025. Claymont has been able to sustain the deficit spending because of the healthy cash balance. In fiscal year 2021, it is predicted to end the year with a balance of $4.6 million. But that balance is forecast to steadily drop, $424,000 in 2023 to a negative balance of $6.2 million by 2025. Wrench said district revenues have remained steady, but the cost of operations has continued to rise. Such things as insurance, salaries, and heating and cooling of buildings. Last year, district voters approved a 5-mil levy. Of that amount, 3 mils goes for operating expenses. The superintendent said that is not new money. It's just replacing what Claymont already had. In making necessary cuts, Wrench said district officials will be mindful of the education of their students. Cuts may be made, but they won't be real deep. We know we can't cut our way out of this, he said. A levy may be necessary at some point. A final decision on reductions in spending and a levy will be made in the next several months, he said. The Bolivar mayor counters comments on social media, by Lori Feeney. Much of the Bolivar Council meeting on January 4th was occupied with addressing what were viewed as disparaging comments made on a Facebook group page called The Best of Bolivar. The group, which is not affiliated with or monitored by the village, lists approximately 1,500 members. In a recent post, residents complained about handling and costs of the water meter project, the gas line project, and village officials' salaries. Some posts became personal. In addressing the water meter project, Mayor Rebecca Hubbell said the metering was mandated by the EPA and is part of a contractual agreement between the Tuscarawas County Metropolitan Water District. Meters are needed for each household so the unlimited use of water use and loss can be better accounted for. Residents are not billed according to what they use, but pay a flat monthly rate. Hubbell said the issue was discussed for months and was reported in local newspapers. If residents feel ill-prepared for what is happening in our village, they can always call, and we will be happy to answer all questions. Hubbell went on to say the gas line project through the village was part of an enhancement program over which the village had no say, except to insist all properties would be remediated. She also addressed the sale of a property that was required to help keep the village solvent. Comments on the page also attacked Hubbell and village administrator Maria App for their salaries and accused them of promoting themselves and giving themselves raises. Both Hubbell and App pointed out that raises and promotions can only be granted by council, and raises have been minimal and in keeping with the standards of municipalities of comparable size. App, who also functions as the village fiscal officer, said the claims on Facebook were falsifications and anyone having issues should come to council and village officials directly rather than using a social media platform. She also addressed a post accusing her of naming herself administrator in order to get a raise, which is not possible as it is an appointed position. App said she received a $2 an hour raise with the position, but also claimed she donated 469 hours of unpaid time to the village last year in her position. Lang re-elected president, new appointments announced. Tim Lang, as re-elected as council president for the year ending December 31st, 2021. Hubbell announced the following appointment for 2021. Street Superintendent Dave Frank, Water Operator Chuck Williams, Tax Administrator Helen Leachy, and Village Administrator App. Approved expenditures. Council approved paying $567.12 plus freight for breakaway hydrant kits, a contract with C-Click Fix for $4,000, with only Oberlin and Vincent voting no, a pay raise for part-time police officer Alex Thomas for completing his probationary period, and Lexipol annual dues of $1,594. Committee reports. Robert Lloyd reported receiving a grant from BWC to cover 75% of the costs of purchasing 5 bulletproof vests for the police department. Lloyd thanked Elite Cryogenics for donating the other 25% so the vests can be purchased without cost to the village. Lang said he's looking into grants to cover the cost of a pneumatic power chainsaw needed by the village to repair any possible water main breaks. Dave Frank reported removing a dead maple tree at the library and trimming others. Legislative. Council approved an ordinance for a 5-year contract with ODOT for snow removal on State Route 212 within the village. Council also heard the first reading of an ordinance to update nepotism and ethics policies and a first reading of an ordinance to contract with Huntington Bank mailing services at up to $355 per month for monthly utility billing commencing later in the year. Up next, MWCD seeks community input regarding future. In 2013, the Muskingum Watershed Conservancy District Board of Directors approved a master plan that consisted of multiple phases of campground and marina improvements scheduled to take place over 10 years and designed to improve outdated and inefficient facilities built more than 50 years ago. Phase 1 of the master plan, which was developed based upon the result of public opinion surveys, totaled approximately $130 million in new project funding. The implementation strategy for Phase 1 has been to improve infrastructure needed for campground upgrades and allow for future growth, and then to construct new campground areas to accommodate existing campers during renovations and to offer limited amenities. The MWCD is currently planning for the second phase of renovations and is seeking public input. We are all seeking feedback from existing customers as well as those not familiar with MWCD parks and marinas to see what type of amenities they would like to see at MWCD parks and marinas, said Adria Bergeron, Director of Marketing and Communications. There are 2 ways to participate. One is to fill out a brief online survey, or you can participate in an upcoming focus group session to dive deeper into what activities and amenities inspire you. Due to COVID-19, all sessions will be virtual and will last about 60 minutes, with an option for participants to continue for an additional 30 minutes. The content for each of the 4 sessions will be similar. plan to attend only one session per household. Once you have registered, you will receive an email with a link to participate in the virtual session prior to the meeting. The session dates are January 19th and 21st from 7 to 8 p.m. You will need a computer and/or a smartphone with access to the internet to participate. Both the online survey and registration for the focus group can be found at www.mwcd.org. Request for medical marijuana dispensary has been withdrawn by Lori Feeney. A company that had recently expressed interest in opening a medical marijuana dispensary in Wilkshire Hills has withdrawn its request to do so. Ron Weekly reported the development at the December 29th meeting of the Lawrence Township Board of Trustees. In November, a number of township residents, along with representatives of the Tuscarawas County Anti-Drug Coalition and other organizations, appeared to voice their opposition to having such a dispensary in Lawrence Township. Weekly also said a public hearing will be held during the zoning board meeting on January 11th regarding zoning changes. Copies of the changes are available for review at the Bolivar Post Office and at the Township Office. In other zoning-related matters, the trustees voted to reappoint David Bessie to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Bessie, whose term expired December 31st, expressed a desire to continue his service. His term will be for 5 years. In the future, terms will be shorter in duration and staggered, so new people will come on board at a regular basis. Trustees also approved the purchase of $50 gift cards, as is the custom, for members of the Zoning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals in return for their serving on a volunteer basis. We're very thankful for what they do on their own time and with no pay, said Don Ackerman, board chairman. Fire contract planning. A work session was held prior to the meeting to review and discuss a proposed contract with the Bolivar Fire Department, which would include coverage for the township, including the villages of Bolivar and Zoar. The mayors of Bolivar and Zoar were in attendance, as were attorneys Terry Seeberger for the township and Leslie Imes Kuntz for the fire department. The contract being proposed is for 1 year. We don't want to have to do this year after year, but there have been a lot of changes, said Matt Ritterbeck, trustee, including the addition of Zoar to the contract. Ideally, we'd like to move towards having a 3-year contract, but we want to be cautious at this time. Ackerman said, "We will do a 1-year contract and see how it works. Then we'll revisit it next year, and we may move to a 2 or 3-year contract at that point." One of the issues influencing the shorter contract term is the possibility of developing a fire district in Lawrence Township. Rebecca Hubble, mayor of Bolivar, expressed concern about not having a contract ready for council to vote on at its January 4th meeting. However, Ackerman said the last contract was not signed until February, but was made retroactive to January 1, as would be done with this contract. Even absent a signed contract, the Bolivar Fire Department will still respond to all fire calls within the township. All parties will review the contract and suggest changes, which will be reviewed at the next planning meeting on January 14th at 6 p.m. Trustees also heard the following. Township resident Karen McDonnell told Weekly people are building bonfires in areas that are part of her property. Weekly also said a number of sheds built in the same area are not in compliance with the 10-foot setback zoning requirement. Sean Lynch, Bolivar Fire Chief, thanked the township for keeping the roads clear on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. One of the caveats of public safety is maintaining good, clear roadways, Lynch said. We had no accidents in the township during that snowstorm, and that's directly attributable to the phenomenal job those guys did of keeping the snow plowed. Lynch also expressed his condolence, along with those of the fire department, on the death of Bill Hodder. Hodder's grandson Mike currently serves on the Township Board of Trustees. Anybody who talks about Lawrence Township and doesn't mention Bill is missing the boat, Lynch said. Bill did a lot for this township. Ackerman agreed, saying Hodderer, who served on the township board for 32 years, was instrumental in many of the improvements township residents now enjoy. The next meeting, which will be a reorganizational meeting, will be Thursday, January 14th at 7 p.m. at Charles E. Lundenberger Hall, 10867 Industrial Parkway, Northwest in Bolivar. Historian to speak about borders. Join historian and journalist David Mould on Thursday, January 21st at 6:30 p.m. on a journey to borders, both real and imagined. In his latest book on travel, history, and culture, Postcards from the Borderlands, Mould explores the meaning of borders. Are they simply political and geographical, marked by posts, walls, and fences, or should people think of them more broadly? Some borders, set by surveys and treaties, take no account of geography, language, and culture. There are borders within countries, physical, economical, or social. And finally, there are borders of one's mind, the way people may think of unfamiliar places. This virtual journey begins with maps and cartoons that poke fun at how people view other parts of the U.S. Mould moves on to the Carve Up Africa, the artificial and often straight line borders drawn by colonial powers. In South Asia, he explores the world's craziest borders between India and Bangladesh. He ends up in Central Asia in that gerrymandered jumble of former Soviet republics whose names end in -stan. Mould, PhD, Professor Emeritus of Media Arts and Studies at Ohio University, has traveled widely in Asia and Southern Africa. Born in the UK, he worked as a newspaper and TV journalist before moving to the US. His travel essays and articles have been published in Newsweek, Christian Science Monitor, Times High Education and History News Network. His books include Monsoon Postcards, Indian Ocean Journeys, and Postcards from Stanland, Journeys in Central Asia. The program will be on Zoom, and to register, go to www.doverlibrary.org/register. And now, Appeal shrinks Tusky Valley's share of pipeline taxes. In Mineral City, Tusky Valley's treasurer is urging district officials to proceed with caution when it comes to the district's facility improvement plan. Mark Phillips says the developer of the Rover pipeline filed an appeal that will reduce tax revenue to the district by close to $1 million this year. He says the district is still generating enough to cover the mortgage on a new school building to house students in grades 7 through 12, but he suggested officials not make any plans beyond that. The district had also planned to use pipeline revenue to renovate and add on to the existing middle school to accommodate students in preschool through 6th grade, relocate the bus garage, and transform the current high school into a community center. And now, Fire Chief looks to improve training, city's safety rating. In New Philadelphia, the city's fire chief says he has some ambitious goals before he retires in about 6 years. Jim Parrish says he still wants to construct a live fire training building behind the fire station, which could allow the department to start a firefighting training academy. He says they already have the infrastructure in place for the approximately $285,000 project, and so far about $40,000 for it through the sponsorship BRIC fundraiser. Parrish says he also wants to continue improving the city's insurance service office rating, which affects local fire insurance rates. The city's number improved from a 4 to a 2 in recent years with the addition of the new fire station, additional staffing, and other enhancements. But Parrish hopes to get it to 1. He says there's only 68 fire departments in Ohio with the Class 2 rating right now, and just 4 with the Class 1 rating. And next, officials cautiously optimistic about county's financial outlook. Tuscarawas County's commissioners say federal CARES Act dollars put the community in a much better position to handle economic challenges to start off 2021. Commissioner Chris Abul says the county received about $4 million, which helped balance the 2021 budget. Approximately $300,000 of that was distributed to area small businesses as grants to help them with costs related with the virus pandemic. Abul says it also allowed them to approve the 2021 budget in late December rather than waiting until after the first of the year. The county is using a little more than $2 million in CARES Act funds to operate the jail this year and about $1 million for 911 operations. And now it's time for 30 seconds. A big thank you to John's Sweeper Service in Dover. He and his assistant did a wonderful job in decorating the windows of the shop. The inside is even more beautiful. I would like to say God bless to the young man who donated all the items to the Humane Society. We really need to take care of our animals. That's just so important. Thanks to the person who left a hand-painted wooden plaque on our porch and our neighbors' porches. The message was to spread joy and stay safe. It made our day and many days to come. I just wanted to give a shout out to the maroon vehicle that purchased my beverage at Starbucks on December 29th. It was greatly appreciated and quite the surprise. I will pay it forward. I just want to say how beautiful downtown Dover was this year with all the beautiful Christmas and holiday lights. I'd like to thank everyone who did such a tremendous job of putting up Christmas lights this year. The Dover, New Philadelphia area was just absolutely beautiful. I really enjoyed driving around with my family and looking at the lights, especially on this crazy COVID year. Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken is a very good place to eat, but I don't understand why there's only one around. You can't find another one within 100 miles. Lee's needs to expand its business so we can have 2 famous recipes in the area. The South Side cannot handle that traffic. In my opinion, using the schools that we have all around us would be a good way to distribute the vaccine. And I think that Facebook, Google, and Twitter are an evil to our country. People can say anything they want on there about people and not be accountable for one thing they say. Do you have an opinion? An answering machine is on duty 24 hours a day. Call 330-364-1939 or email opinions@timesreporter.com. Callers should speak slowly after the beep. Personal attacks, obscenities, intolerant, or biased messages are not accepted. Well, this concludes the reading of the Times Reporter for Friday, January the 15th. My name is Pam. Please remember to stay safe. You be greatly blessed today and make it a great day.